The first thing you have to do in this game is spend 10 real-life hours watching an NPC build a lumber mill plank by plank. Never before have I been so impressed by the sheer level of detail and so immensely bored by the lack of any gameplay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm Josh Hayes and this is Worst MMO Ever, a series where I play the worst MMO games I can find so you don't have to. Drop a like on the vid or sub to the channel for more MMO stuff. Ring the bell so you don't miss a single future video. As usual, a big thank you to my supporters on Patreon and Twitch who make all my content possible. More on how you can support at the end of the video. For now, let's begin. Today we are playing From Cave to Kingdom, a free MMORPG on Steam describing itself as a cross-platform MMO with building, war, and taxes. So it's another game where crafting and player-built structures matter, another hardcore experience. The sign-up screen doesn't look awful. We'll have a look into the developer's history later. For now, let's just dive right in. To start the game, you must write in the name of your starting city, and you must choose a real city because, and this is actually really impressive, the landmass of this game is mapped to the actual globe. If you click the Earth behind this window, you can drag it around and start basically anywhere. The worst part of this selection is how you can't close the massive window in the center of the screen and just explore the Earth. That window stays, despite the fact that exploring the Earth is actually quite cool. I wonder if your starting location affects anything. I'll find out later. So I picked London because I'm British, I choose a sigil and a colour, and off we go. Let's just admire the opening cinematic together. And strap in and grab some popcorn because this goes on for a while.
For days and nights they fought, and all lost hope that this war would once be over, as this was the greatest war they had seen. Scared and confused, people refused to surrender, because they loved their king and they loved their queen, who had always looked after them. The people did not run when the blazing summer sun burned their skin, and they did not run when the autumn storms came. In the winter, they still were on the battlefield, almost freezing and with no supplies, while the enemies kept coming and coming stronger and even more ferocious. They did not run because their king was fighting by their side, and their queen was taking care of the wounded. And how could have they betrayed the royal family, even if the many were hungry and afraid for their lives in this never-ending war they had never considered fleeing?
This goes on for 8.5 minutes. A text-to-speech program reads primary school levels of exposition and plot, and you won't realize it now, but this is the most engaging part of the game. Basically, you are a renegade prince looking to start your own kingdom, but you've only got 2 supporters, so you've got to build up from scratch. Seriously, this writing is something I'd expect from a high school fantasy writing class. It is not very good. So you start off with naming your kingdom. I am now the prince of like and subscribe. Then you get to name your 3 units. The carrier moves resources around and shall be known as Carrier McCarryface. The builder unit makes things and is now Buildy McBuildface, and the prince, your avatar in the game and all around completely useless unit, shall be called Princey McPrinceface, and now the game begins. So in an unusual twist for the MMO genre, the actual gameplay of Cave to Kingdom is real-time strategy, looking more like Command & Conquer or Age of Empires. You've got your resources shown to the top left, a list of interaction instructions along the bottom, but in a very annoying touch, no mini-map. You need to just remember where you've placed things. WASD flies the camera around, mouse wheel zooms in and out, and holding right-click allows you to spin the camera. Now you can't control any of your units manually. You can't select them and click walk here. You can only issue commands or set tasks and they will start doing that task. The first thing you need to do is build a stockpile. With the stockpile building selected, scroll the mouse wheel to spin the building. So you've got a lot of freedom with building placement. Some travelling merchant then shows up and gives me some free stuff. Not sure how useful it is yet, so I'll ignore it for now and just try to play. So, like most of these lower budget independent games, there doesn't seem to be much guidance for what to do, and a lot of people say that I like my hand being held. That's not entirely true. I just like to know what the game expects of me. The game does say it has tutorials built in, but I can't find any immediately, so I just click around and eventually I do figure some things out. The builder unit only builds, the carrier unit only carries. So once I place the stockpile building down, now we can watch the building animation. Let's just admire this together, and I haven't changed anything about this gameplay. This is how it works. Okay, so the carrier has picked the wooden beam up. And now he's walking very slowly. Oh, he's dropped the wooden beam into the actual place he's walked to. Like, it's not just a hammering animation, not like a generic I am building animation. He actually did place that beam in the place it ended up being. That's a nice touch. Okay, he's walking back to get another beam. Oh cool, he placed that down in another place. That's a really accurate build animation. The character actually walked to the place the beam was going to be, the beam was lowered, and the beam appeared at the right time. Okay, something you need to understand about Cave to Kingdom. They took the real-time strategy, camera angle, and gameplay, then they took the real-time aspect extremely literally. Building in Cave to Kingdom is incredibly impressive because, as we'll see later, buildings actually get created plank by plank, and the animation of the builder matches up perfectly, making it look like they're actually building the object. There must be hundreds, in some cases thousands, of individual building models for each and every building in the game at various stages of construction. That is mind-blowing. But while the building is happening, you can't do anything else. You only have 3 units and they are all occupied with creating whatever you tell them to create, apart from the prince who does nothing. Eventually the stockpile, the most important building, is finished, and now I've got a place for wood and planks and grain to hang out in. You start with a reasonable amount of all the basics. With the first mission finished, the second mission window pops up, and now I see the tutorial. It's a little video embedded in the mission window, so let's give it a watch.
Build your lumber mill. To complete this mission, you must click on the build button on the bottom menu and select the lumber mill. Position the lumber mill in the desired location. You can do that by using the WASD keys to move around and the mouse wheel to rotate the building. The lumber mill is where the lumberjack stores logs and the sawmiller process them into finished goods. Place the lumber mill closer to the woods to decrease the lumberjack's working time.
It's more text-to-speech explaining how to build a lumber mill. Just select the mill from the build menu, place it down, ideally by some trees, and let the builder do his thing. Seems simple enough, so let's do this. I will stick a lumber mill on the edge of the forest and let's crack on with making my kingdom. So, few issues. First of all, none of the buildings have any information on how many total resources they'll take to build, how long they'll take to build, or how much health they will have when built. All of these aspects are kind of important to a real-time strategy game. With the lumber mill under construction, here is what happens. The carrier unit will move a single wooden beam at a time from the stockpile to the construction site and put it down. This takes a few minutes, because the walk is long and he is in no rush. Then the builder will pick up the beam and place it on the foundation. The beam will be placed extremely accurately. It's not using any sort of physics engine, but it is using accurate building stage animations. Again, I cannot overstate how impressed I am with the accuracy of the building stages, and I also can't overstate how incredibly boring this is to watch. While something is building, you can't do anything else. You can't move the prints. I mean, you can fly the camera around and explore, but there's nothing around you because you're hemmed into this small area. You can read the various help menus or look at the available future buildings or units, but again, there's no actual information available on them. No numbers or stats, just names. This is the second mission in the game, and all I've written on my notes while playing is, "Are you taking the piss?" Now, I understand the game is cross-platform, and maybe this is what it's meant to be, an extremely slow city-building game, a lunch break game, one of those mobile games like Clash of Clans or AFK Arena, an idle game where you set something to happen then return a day later and it's done. Because apparently any order you issue will continue for 48 hours even while you're offline, and hey, those games have an audience, but I've got 2 main issues with this being that. If the core gameplay loop is click and wait idle game, Why have you bothered to add a plank-by-plank animation for the construction process? Why have you put an absurd level of detail into something most players will never even see? I don't understand how you had time to create hundreds, if not thousands, of individual building stage models, but you couldn't find a voice actor. And second, you must understand, as games developers, that when a player downloads a game and starts playing, they are excited. They are looking forward to the game. That is the moment they want the game to be good. They want the game to be fun, and the first hour or two of gameplay is vital to grabbing them, to retaining an audience. Now, you can have slow building mechanics in your game eventually, but you need to grab the player and front load with some quality gameplay. Look at every real-time strategy game and see how they do this. Command & Conquer has you using an ion cannon in the first mission. StarCraft gets you to fighting the Zerg. Supreme Commander gets you rocking the commander against the enemy. Even more tactical games like Civilization or Age of Empires have you bump into aggressive or dangerous things early and advance you relatively quickly so you can understand the mechanics and actually have a level of agency over what happens. The opening of your game needs to create an emotional link with the player, to intrigue them, to interest them, to make them want to play more, because only when they want to play more can you start to add in the time gating. It's why every mobile city builder has you building stuff super fast at the start and then slowly adds in the come back in a day or two aspects, because by then you want to come back in a day or two because you have a basic city. You have something to care about. To open your game, to have the second mission be come back in 10 hours, you've not given the player any time or reason to actually care about coming back. You've got a new player right now, me, someone who's downloaded the game and is excited to play the MMO about construction, war, taxes, trade. It's my first experience, the experience I will have, the memory, the opening of this game, and you have literally designed sit and wait for 10 hours. But oh, every few minutes your units will thank you for the food. Only the carrier can move construction materials and I have one carrier. Only the builder can build and I have one builder. Only the prince can stand there doing absolutely nothing and I have one prince. There doesn't seem to be a way to increase your population yet. You need to build houses, and to have a house you need to have built a lumber mill. The Steam comments do say that you increase your population by waiting, and every few days of real time you'll get one more person. This is gameplay. This is the game. This is what they thought would be good. I wonder if I can move my stockpile closer to the lumber mill under construction so the carrier doesn't have to take this long walk every time. So I check and oh no, you can't move the stockpile while building anything. And even if I did move the stockpile closer to the lumber yard, what about when I need to make a mine? Or a fishing platform, or anything further away? I'd be shifting this long-ass walk issue to the future. But you know what? It's worth it, because I'm probably not going to play this in the future. So I cancel the lumberyard progress and move the stockpile. Apparently you can only do this 3 times in your account's life. I don't think that's going to be a problem. When you place the buildings, it's really confusing because it doesn't show you how many resources it will take to build, but it does show you how many resources you have. Why? Imagine placing a building in any other real-time strategy game, and instead of saying, hey, you're about to spend this much, it says, by the way, you've got this much. I know I've got that much. I can find that info in many places. What value is that to me unless I know how much I need to take out of it to make this building? So I put the stockpile closer to the wood, then I start building the lumberyard again, and I just leave the recording running. Because remember, there is nothing else I can do. I can't make more units, I can't move the prince, I can't have multiple buildings being created, I can't do anything until this lumber mill finishes. And as you'll see at the end of the video, me doing this now, moving the building, actually almost broke my game and made it impossible to progress. You'll see why later. I am so impressed with the fact this building is actually built in real time. Someone, somewhere, modeled this, log by log, plank by plank. And then they matched up the builder's movement animation and travel locations specifically to make them place the construction item on it perfectly. It's insane the level of detail they've put into this. And if this was meant to be an offline, idle mobile game, why the hell have you made it this accurate? While this is building, and trust me, it's going to take a while, let's have a read of some reviews and a glance at the developer's website. Why are we paying taxes for producing stuff? That's the real cause of economy regression in this game. There are a lot of other similar incomplete game mechanics all over the game. This game still needs a lot of work before leaving early access. At this stage, it is pay to win. Might be the dumbest game I have ever seen. Looks like the only way to begin to play is to give them a ton of money, but even then I just don't get it. Very slow to build, really nothing to do. The tutorial sent me to attack and lost all my troops, no way to get them back. Maybe I just don't get it, but it doesn't really seem fun. And in the interest of fairness, here is a positive review. It's only been 2 hours and 1 building, but I like it. Gonna stream it, maybe get some popularity. Now, far be it from me to tell you what you can and cannot do on your own Twitch stream, but from an entertainment point of view, I would advise against streaming a real-time building simulator. So what about the game's official website? It's pretty basic, shows us some screenshots, lets us see the game updates, some buildings, some characters, and the other projects they've been associated with, but I'm interested in the pay-to-win comment someone made earlier. How does that work? See, the game has 2 main currencies, gold and cave coins, and cave coins can only be gained by donating money on the website, so it's a premium currency. Then, cave coins can be converted to gold in the game, and gold can be used to buy anything in the marketplace, so it's literally pay to get whatever you need, which I think is the definition of pay to win. But you can't pay to rush buildings. Everyone is in the same slow lane for that mechanic, which I think is ironic. If they wanted to make a lot of money, that's the one thing they should have sold. With the foundation of the lumber mill placed, the builder now starts laying the planks for the floor, and God, I can't get over this. How detailed it is! The building process is perfect. It's insane to me that they put this much effort into a mechanic that isn't actually engaging in any gameplay sense. All this lets you do is watch a real-time building being made, and yeah, that's cool for a bit, but it's not exactly going to engage players over the long term, is it? You know what? I'm going to fix the camera here and just time-lapse this because it's oddly therapeutic. There's an old saying, if you want to make an apple pie from scratch, you must first create the universe. What it means is, nothing made from scratch is ever truly made from the very, very start of the process. You often jump into the process with some of the groundwork done for you, and that's okay, because most of the work before that process is repetitive and boring and dull. So even things made from scratch take liberties with that definition to make the actual experience more fun. This game has chosen to take the idea of you must build everything from scratch, but it's also given you starting resources and a load of food, so it knows it's not entirely from scratch. It's actively decided this is the beginning, this is the foundation moment the fun will be built on. Does the population rise by having babies? Do they grow in real time? Do I need to wait 18 years for each new citizen to be useful? Do soldiers go through real-time training? If a building gets damaged, does it have active battle animation too? I mean, that one we may never know because no one will ever get into a battle on this game. Building something from scratch means you have to actively decide which place you're going to start from, which moment in the process is the most fun, and they've decided this is it. Why has he started building the floor? What happens if it rains? After about 2 hours, finally, we are finished with the floor. And now we are placing the structure beams around the edge, and then the wall logs are going to be placed in. Remember, this is the second mission. This is the opening of the game, the first thing you will ever experience. If you are a game designer, I cannot overstate how important the early game is for player interest and player retention. And most free games spend that time getting you hooked, and then they add in the time gates. This game opens with a 10-hour gameplay-free gated building section. You want to open your game with something memorable, not a grind. It's about 5 hours in now. I've cleaned the house, taken the dogs for a walk, made some lunch, drank a few cups of tea, and it's still building. I wouldn't mind if you had told me this was an idle builder in your advert on Steam, but you advertise yourself with an archer, you advertise yourself with battle. It's meant to be an exciting game, and it just isn't. More main structure building. I press escape. Nothing happens. To leave the game, you must click the logout button in the bottom right. There is no main menu. I wonder if your starting location on the globe actually matters, like if you'll get different scenery. So Discord member Thyrosen gave it a go, starting in sub-Saharan Africa, and I then tried to start again in the Arctic. It's the same location, no matter where you begin. It is literally exactly the same map, the same trees, the same river, the same mines, and you also can't leave the small enclosed area, so you can't see any other players. You know what? I missed the intro movie. Let's watch more of that, remind ourselves of the time we were full of hope and wonder for the adventure ahead.
They finally realized that there's no perfect time and no perfect place to start something. And so they stopped in front of a cave, determined to confront their destiny. This is where we stop. The prince without a kingdom said, "This winter shall pass, and the spring to come shall find us building a new kingdom. Because winter is to put thoughts into words, and spring is to put words into actions." Once the winter months were over, a bit fearful but full of hope, the prince and his men set out to find the perfect place to build a kingdom.
This is the place where we shall build our kingdom.
This is the structure 8 hours in. I'm bored, my time with this game is done and I won't miss it. But the next day, when I'm writing this script, I was intrigued to see how the building looks now, so I logged in and check this out. It's not finished, because the carrier needed one more wooden beam and the builder is standing doing nothing. Remember when I cancelled the original building of the lumber mill to move it? Well, cancelling doesn't return all the resources you've spent so far, like how most real-time strategy games don't give you a full refund. But it seems the game is designed to have you start with the exact amount you need. So now I've actually locked my progression, because without this lumber mill, I have no way to get the lumber I need to finish building the lumber mill. Eventually, I do figure out you can use the marketplace to buy the resources that you need, but the game didn't explain any of this. I found it by clicking around. So Cave to Kingdom, an incredibly slow, real-time strategy MMO with a global map that's actually all the same, that takes the real-time aspect to absurd levels. To end this review, I will award marks out of 10. However, I will do it in real time if the developer actually comes over to see me. So until then, it's just, I'm waiting for you to get here, out of 10. Cheers for watching. Another big thank you to my Patreon supporters and Twitch subs who make the channel possible. You can support the channel from just £1 a month. Check the video description for links to the Patreon, Twitch, Twitter and our Discord. And as always, have a great day.